Being brilliant's not enough, young man. You have to work hard. Intelligence is not a privilege, it's a gift. And you use it for the good of mankind.
And if anyone's destined for greatness, it's you, son. You owe the world your gifts. You just have to figure out how to use them.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Hey everyone, it's me, your friendly neighborhood host, that guy Frankie, yours truly, and in today's episode of One Heroic Moment, I decided to do something completely different and instead make it a very special one. With No Way Home just a couple of weeks away and with me dropping non-stop Spider-Man videos, I thought, why not make at least one more Spider-Man video for this channel and have help from my very good friend, Friendly Neighborhood Menace, do yet again another music video like he did in What Makes Spider-Man Special, but instead we'll be doing one heroic moment, but instead of it just being one, oh no, we're doing 3 heroic moments.
What?
3 heroic moments.
That's right.
In this episode, I'll be covering all 3 versions of the live-action Spider-Man, from the Tobey Maguire movies to the Andrew Garfield movies that I believe is very, very much underrated, to the modern-day MCU Tom Holland approach. So get ready, true believers, for this 5th episode, this special episode of One Heroic Moment. And starting off this video, we journey back to the early 2000s. We journey on to the Raimi trilogy, the one that is by far the goated trilogy in my eyes, the best Spider-Man out there out of all 3 for me, as well as a good majority of the fans out there. While Tobey may not be well received by some fans now, his films showcase some of the best heroic moments of a Spider-Man in any Spider-Man media out there. From saving the likes of Mary Jane and the school kids from falling to their deaths, rescuing Aunt May from Otto Octavius, preventing Gwen's death in Spider-Man 3, to by far one of the most iconic moments in Spider-Man media, stopping the train from falling into the river that would have led to many deaths and injuries. While I would like to talk about that moment, I feel like it's been covered and done to death by many video essayists out there and Spider-Man fans as well. But there is one moment that hasn't been talked about to death or overexposed. Spider-Man 2 is not just the most iconic superhero movie out there, but also the one that stands out of the entire Spider-Man trilogy and the ongoing franchise that we have. Spider-Man 2 revolutionized superhero films and was the blueprint for how to make a superhero film and how it should be crafted. From having amazing storytelling and great performances from the cast that brought the movie to life, this movie saw Peter Parker going through an identity crisis in a sense, as his life, his personal one, that being, was falling apart. He lost friendships and relationships for taking the mantle of being a hero. Parker's life was controlled by Spider-Man, and soon he would lose his ability to even be the wall-crawling menace. And we saw the most heartbreaking scene, aside from Harry's death in the franchise, Spider-Man No More. Peter Parker wanted to go back to normality, and focus on himself without getting involved with anything superhero related. We'd witness this in the raindrop scene where Peter walks to the beach, genuinely happy that he isn't Spider-Man anymore. But with these choices, he soon realized that he couldn't escape his destiny. In one of my favorite moments, in one of my favorite scenes from the Sam Raimi trilogy, Peter Parker the man, not Spider-Man, does something unthinkable and rushes into a burning building to save a little girl. While he tries his best to save her, it's barely enough as he tries his absolute best, even though his abilities aren't around this time, nor are they in his favor, as Peter is getting hurt and nearly dies trying to save her, but somehow manages to still go above and beyond to rescue not just her, but himself in the process. This moment alone is one of my favorite scenes in Spider-Man 2, as in my opinion it shows Peter being a hero even without having to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and this is one of the scenes that defined the superhero genre for me. While I still have this love-hate relationship with Tom Holland and the MCU's version of the Spider-Man character, I still do love the character in some ways, since he does have a lot of good abilities and a lot of good moments with him that's just overshadowed by a lot of terrible scenes, shot in scenes, but I'm not here to talk about that, nor my disdain of Sony's way of making the character. Instead, I'm here to talk about one scene from Spider-Man Homecoming that made that film iconic. While the MCU is trying to capture the magic with Spider-Man, they're doing at least a decent job, but I can't argue with the fact that Homecoming was the definitive MCU Spider-Man film. While it has questionable moments, the movie itself is 100 times better than Far From Home. From having incredible tense scenes with villains like the Vulture to pretty cool scenes or moments of seeing Peter being a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but even then, we can all agree that Michael Keaton's act as the Vulture stole the entire show. There is one scene, however, that did show Tom Spider-Man being Spider-Man out of both films that he's already been in. What I mean by this is that they actually understood the character and made him feel like the character he's supposed to be playing. Both Tom Holland and Michael Keaton have really good chemistry with one another and make the film feel fantastic, as their scenes alone together make the film feel great, as they can bounce off of each other. They feel like actual heroes and villains. The moments that they're in create these tense situations because you don't know what to expect or when to expect it. They're able to bounce off one another, as Michael Keaton as the Vulture is one of the many and few MCU villains that rests either in top 10 or top 5 for many, many reasons. Not only did he steal the whole show, as I said earlier, but the way that he brought the Vulture to life was both spectacular and horrifying at the same time. He's been complimented by many fans in the community as being a Raimi villain, since the Vulture's origin is similar to those in the Raimi universe. He isn't a straight up villain, but rather turned into one, and you feel not just for him, but for his entire crew of workers that were screwed out of their jobs and out of money and nearly went broke thanks to the likes of the Avengers, but more specifically, the one man, the Iron Man himself, Tony Stark. Together, they resort to selling alien weapons and alien technology that you still feel like there is a sense of humanity for the Vulture as he's trying to bring food on the table for his family, but you can't ignore it. You know that he is trying to be good, but he has to be the bad guy in the situation. There's no avoiding it. Granted, he nearly does end up killing Spider-Man not just once, but multiple times throughout the film. He also did give Peter some mercy once they found out about each other's identities. But Peter, being our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, he didn't do as the Vulture told him to and resorted to try and stop him from what he was going to do. Although the Vulture had the upper hand throughout every single fight, again and again and again, the Vulture nearly killed himself had it not been for Tom making one simple choice and saving him from his demise.
Your wings are gonna explode!
In the midst of chaos through the fire, Peter pulls and carries the Vulture out of harm's way, being a true hero and showing what it means to be a hero. This scene alone shows how much that John Watts, the writers, everyone on board cared about this character. Now, while I did say I didn't want to talk about anything negative, Tom Holland's Spider-Man in this movie is a great Spider-Man. He does every heroic act that he can possibly make, and while it did have some flaws, this scene saved the movie, at least for me. It shows Tom Holland's Spider-Man being a superhero, being the friendly neighborhood wall-crawling menace that we all grew up with, reading in comic books, seeing in movies, playing in video games. He didn't have to save the Vulture. He could have been selfish. He could have just left him on the beach for dead, especially after the Vulture nearly killed him multiple times. But Peter made the right choice in saving him because he could save him. Well, yes, superheroes can't save everyone. Peter still saw a sense of humanity in the Vulture and didn't want to let him die because he saw something in him. And that's what makes this scene feel even more special, at least for me. And it is one heroic moment from Tom Holland's portrayal as Spider-Man. And now, the moment that you've all been waiting for, the final heroic moment, the final addition in this special episode of One Heroic Moment. It's time for me to do justice to the Spider-Man community, but more specifically to the amazing Spider-Man fans. I get that it's not the most well-received or well-loved Spider-Man out there, out of all three that we've seen. But there's no denying that there was at least something special about Andrew Garfield's performance as the wall-crawling hero. Yeah, I can see that he had at least some douchey mannerisms and was the cool nerd stereotype, but it honestly didn't annoy me. I love all three regardless, and they all have their own flaws. But Andrew and Webb's interpretation is very underrated. Andrew had some of the best traits in both Peter and Spider-Man and had one of the best on-screen relationships out of the other Spider-Men that we've seen. His Peter in many ways reminded me of Tobey's, but was also unique in his own way. From having some really good mannerisms to being really bright and smart on screen compared to the likes of both Tobey and Tom Holland, and showcased his skills. His acts of heroism were showcased in The Amazing Spider-Man, with one scene in particular, one of the best scenes out of the entire films. This scene reminded me or felt similar to the Raimi films, mainly due to the choice and sacrifice Andrew's Peter Parker did on the bridge to save a child like Tobey did. While the Lizard was causing chaos and havoc, Peter does what he can to save everyone from webbing cars to prevent them from landing into the river below them, to saving people on the bridge from the lizard's reign of terror through the destruction going on. Peter makes the choice of not chasing the lizard as he sees a family in need. A father's son is trapped in a car that is nearly falling down into the river on fire. Peter tries his best to help the kid, but with the weight of the car, it proves to be too much, and his webbing is barely able to hold it together and keep it together. The car starts to fall, but Peter gives the boy courage and hands him down his mask, knowing that his identity is exposed and could be a problem for him. He didn't care, as he did it to save him, and it worked for him. Peter saves not just the day, but the family from despair, and is one of the most iconic scenes from the film, aside from the iconic shot at the end of the movie. Andrew had so much potential that we never got to witness fully, and is honestly one of the most depressing of the three. While Toby lost friends like Otto, Harry, Andrew lost both of the Stacys and his friend in a worse way compared to Toby. He could have been done better and handled better had Sony and Aoron not micromanaged or not interfered with the film at all, and not messed with Mark Webb and the script. But even then, Andrew did care about the character, and it showed that he loved it, that he loved being Spider-Man. He loved everything about the character, and he deserves nothing but love and support from the Spider-Man fans. He's very much overhated, and he doesn't need to be. He doesn't deserve to be overhated. While at first I did want to center this entire video more so on Andrew Garfield's interpretation of Spider-Man, I felt that I couldn't do it just on him solely. I wouldn't be able to sleep right if I didn't get the chance to talk about Tobey or Tom Holland's portrayal as Spider-Man and showcase their heroic moments, especially with No Way Home just right around the corner. While I do feel that Andrew's is the most underrated out of the three, and definitely the most unappreciated, I wanted to at least showcase all three, as they're all the best in their own ways. But I'm happy that I actually got to showcase Andrew just a little more, because again, I do feel that he is very much underrated and unappreciated out of all iterations of the characters that we've been able to see. These are the best live-action Spider-Man that we've ever been able to see on the big screen. Each version of them shows what it means to be Spider-Man with their acts of heroism that we don't get to see as much in superhero media, or at least not executed to the way that we want it to. Kind of like my video when I centered it around what makes Spider-Man special. These are some more reasons adding to it. Love or hate the characters, we should be happy, we should be jumping in joy that we get to see, or hopefully see, all three of them on the big screen coming soon together. And that, my friends, is something I can't wait to see. I may not be something of a scientist, but I can say that all three of these actors defined the characters. They defined what it means to be Spider-Man and had some of the best moments. They all showed what it meant to be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. This was your friendly neighborhood host, that guy Frankie. Yours truly, and right before we end the video, I just want to say thank you guys again for all the support, all the love I've been getting recently, and the fact that we're gonna be at 300 subs. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate all of you for continuing to support me. And yeah, I might have some of the worst videos out there, but you guys still continue to support me. And with your guys' support, I want to try and make more videos. I've barely been getting better at more audio editing, and my audio is actually sounding more crisp than usual, with especially my last projects. But I wouldn't have been able to done it without all of you guys continuing to showcase your support and your ongoing love for this channel. I hope that I can continue to make videos for you guys, and if we do hit the 300 mark,
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the
Everybody
procedure,
stay calm.
everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
I will showcase my face more often and stop being so damn camera shy. But again, thank you guys again.
Thanks a lot, man.
I hope you guys like this video and subscribe.
That's right.
And especially check out my great friend, Friendly Neighborhood Menace, who's about to end this video with another beautiful music edit like he did in our last video together of what makes Spider-Man special. Check out this beautiful music edit right before you leave.
World isn't ending, it's love that I'm sending to you. It isn't the love of a hero, and that's why I fear it won't do. And they say that a hero can save us. I'm not gonna stand here and wait. I'll hold on to the wings of the eagles, watch as we all fly away. And they're watching us, they're watching us as we all fly away. And they're watching us, they're watching us as we all fly away. And they're watching us, they're watching us as we all